personal devotion time. There is a difference there, and as a minister, you have to be able to draw that line. So with that, that's ministerial, and you kind of spoke to it. So what are your greatest weaknesses spiritually? Um, where would you say you might struggle spiritually?
Probably go back to prayer life, consistent prayer life, because prayer's hard. I mean, praying's hard. It's easy to get sidetracked. It's easy to let my mind wander when I should be, calling out to the Lord and faithfully going to Him in prayer. Studying God's Word is not hard for me because I'm a pastor, and that's where I get joy from and fulfillment. And so studying His Word is hard, but then there's also times where I need to make sure that you're being faithful to pray and prayer and fasting, and so probably my prayer life and my communication to God is probably a bigger struggle.
And I think that's pretty common too in today's society, today's world, the way we live. We're go, 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 go. And one of the critical elements of prayer is you got to stop, right? You got to slow down enough just to say, hey, this time is only to spend time with the Lord. And so I think that's a good point.
Probably another key point for me is the music that I listen to. I know that may not be that makes my mind stray, and begin to think on worldly things. And so making sure that my focus stays back on Christ and godliness in every aspect of my life. Because if I kind of sway away from godliness here, then it's a slow fade, and it's just really easy for me to continue to sway away from godliness, but to make sure that let's keep everything godly. The music that we listen to, the conversations that we have, the things that we read, the things that we watch, to make sure that I'm not getting caught up in ungodliness and worldliness, because it's a temptation.
Yeah, for sure. Last one, and then we're going to give you a chance to ask some questions. How are you going to look to? Because again, we've talked about youth ministry is your primary mission here, but so much of youth ministry and children's ministry is the whole family. So how are you going to look to minister to the whole family of the young people in our church?
So it's easy for children's ministry because most of the time when you have children, their parents are here at a young one. So I think it's really important that in my position, at least a few times a year, we have a conference parent meeting. This is what we're teaching, and this is what we're going through, and this is what I'm seeing in your kid's life. Do you have any questions for me? So over communication to the parents of everything that we have. This is the education material that we're using. We're teaching through this and making sure that I'm talking to our teachers regularly, having teachers meetings, so that the church and the parents see that what we're doing is kind of just laid out here for all of us to see. Teenagers is a little different because teenagers start to not like their parents at a certain age. But to make sure, I think probably social media would probably be the number one output for that. Like, this is what we're going through, or to open it up to the parents, and here's our number. These are the things we're doing at our church, and to do family events. Whatever that may look like, where we invite the whole families, that we're building a relationship. Hey, you come in, get to meet them so that they can meet me and know me. And one thing that I want to do is have a parent conference once a year. We may invite speakers in, have breakout sessions, like maybe social media here. This is what's going on social media. This is how parents should respond. How do I take the gospel to my kids when I want to pinch their head off and they're not listening, or how do I discipline my kid? Like, what's the most effective way to discipline my children when they're acting this way or different person? I think that churches should offer that to parents, to say, listen, we know it's tough. All right, I got 4 kids, and hopefully maybe more one day. She said, what? But I've got kids, and I know that it's beneficial because you just don't see churches really offer that. I've never seen it, and I've kind of always wondered why. Why don't we have we have conferences for evangelism, or we have conferences for men's ministries, but what about the families? What are we offering to the parents to say, this is how you raise your children, and when it gets hard, this is what we've seen, this is what we've encountered. So I think it's going to be implemented.
And I think the world has a lot of options there. The world has a lot to offer as to how to do those things, but are we addressing that from a biblical Christ-centered approach. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so what we're going to do, Miss Rayleigh's going to, she's got this microphone right here. If you have a question, we do want you to use the microphone. Make sure it's turned on, make sure the green light's on. But just raise your hand, she'll bring the microphone to you, and then you can ask the question, and then Brad will answer it. So who wants to go first? We're good. All right, we're good.
I got one. I don't need a mic.
Well, just because so we're recording, so that can be heard.
So I don't know if you've already know this, but like on Sunday mornings, we have the Sunday school for all age groups. But come actual during service, we have second and down. Do you have a plan maybe for something during service? Because, she's 12 going on 13, and she's not connected with Chris. It's over her head with the maturity of the service on Sunday mornings for kids. So I feel like there's a lost opportunity. They get here and they're bored because they're not truly understanding because it's not tailored to their age group. So I didn't know if there's something.
Yeah, so I think one thing that you'll probably notice, and I see this, is y'all don't have a youth pastor. So they haven't been maybe consistently poured into and preached to on Wednesdays, almost as if to prepare, because the way that Chris is going to preach his messages is pretty similar to the way that I preach my messages also. So one, they're going to be a lot more exposed to expositional preaching and teaching from God's Word. And our prayer is that the interest of God's Word rises with that. Because I get really excited, and preaching and teaching and studying God's Word is fun to me, and it's exciting to me, and I hope that the kids also begin to pick up that excitement and begin to study also. To specifically answer your question though, so when Isaiah read the scroll, he read it to the fathers and the families, and I think that was just kind of, I think that's God's design for us to worship as families. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need, at times, specific children-directed messages and services, but I don't know. I would say initially probably. I don't think maybe we would change that.
I'll speak to this because when I got here, it was 6th grade and down, and I said absolutely not. And the reason for that is, I believe, and this is a philosophy of ministry type thing, I believe families should worship together. I believe that's very important. But I also believe that one of the reasons we lose young people is because they've never learned how to be in here. They've always gone to a small group geared towards their age, and then when they hit 17 or 18, man, I've never sat in big church before. I've never been used to that. And so I think, is it just to stretch them and grow them? Yeah. But if you'll start to look, a lot of churches are really kind of getting away from an expanded children's church model for that reason. Most of the churches, most of the pastors that I speak to, and I'm talking some big churches. There's one in particular that I know of, very large church, doing a phenomenal work, and their youth program's strong. People are staying in the church once they graduate high school. They're going out and they're serving. They cut it off at first grade and down. And so I think the thing is, and we've had this discussion, we look at our kids and we send them to school, to public school, to learn algebra and biology and all those kind of things, and they can do that. They can work 3-step equations, and they can memorize. Our girls, they were singing a song yesterday, and I'm like, I've never even heard that song. How do you know the lyrics to that song? They memorize stuff, so they can attach. And yeah, we want to work hard to build those connections. But I think a lot of it is that training into how to receive that message and how to hear that message, how to stay engaged in that message. That's one of the reasons why we've got the interactive bulletin. where you can take notes and do that to help stay engaged.
And I also say this too. So both my children just got saved. They did not get saved from the teaching that was taking place in children's church. They were saved because we keep the gospel in front of them at home. Now this is a true story. I felt convicted about not praying for my children. I used to work in Geneva, and so I would begin to pray when I come through Rebels Crossroads, and then it was 17 minutes from there to Cisco, and I would pray out loud in the mornings, and I began to pray for my children by name out loud that God would save them, that God would convict them of their sin. And so we begin to